following announcement has been paid for by the
Mark Order.
Welcome to the Elite Mark Order podcast. If you haven't already, please give us a subscribe, press the like button, and leave a comment down below about your thoughts on last night's Dynamite. Join us in the Discord if you want to become an Elite Mark by going to EliteMarkOrder.com or click on the link in the description down below. We've also got a giveaway contest coming up, so stay tuned. I'm CosmicScott. JV's out tonight. Instead, I'm joined by lawyer Scott from the Elite Mark Discord, and tonight we're talking about Dynamite from June 21st, 2023 from Chicago, Illinois. Again, man, they work that area a lot. Scott, how are you tonight? What are your thoughts on the show? Let's get this bad boy started. We've already had a ton of good conversation. How'd you like it?
For sure. I think the show had something for everyone. And anybody who listened to me last week knows that I really don't know a lot about New Japan wrestling. And I realized that this show was aimed at getting everybody ready for Forbidden Door.
Oh, yeah.
But regardless, it was yet another kind of smorgasbord of wrestling, something for everybody. I was entertained from beginning to end. And this was another really good Dynamite, and I'm anticipating that the ratings, for this go home show are going to be really good and solid. If not, there's a problem. But I was very entertained and really enjoyed it.
Well, as far as the ratings go, probably between 8 and 900,000. They've been really consistent about that. Sometimes a little up, sometimes a little down. They have gained some momentum since getting Punk back. There is no denying that. So, in general, I kind of feel like we're back to where we were about a year ago, before Brawl Out, and just kind of seeing it start to heat up. This is going to be a good summer. Wembley brought a ton of attention, and I think that they can really run with this. I think that the shows in Canada started slow. I think the Collision stuff is gaining momentum. From the first show into the second show, they've started to sell more tickets and really started to show it's going to be a quality show, at least here at the beginning. They've got the Owen Hart Cup stuff. We'll talk about that later. They've really started to integrate all of the aspects. So I'm excited to see it grow and where it goes from here. This is a really fun summer coming up, I hope. That being said, let's roll into the show and let's talk about that number one segment. And for me, it was the concession stand brawl. I loved just the absurdity of starting in the back at concessions. They got covered in condiments. They got hot dogs thrown at each other. They had interference from every single goddamn member of Team Impact there is. And yet, it was still fun when it was Mark Briscoe against everybody. You know, it was the fan jumps out and jumps on the ladder. Oh no, that's Satnam, or not Satnam. Satnam doesn't need a ladder. That was Sanjay Dutt. Karen jumps in, but she had a mask on, so she was one of the concession ladies in hiding. Just little things like that built up the story of these insurmountable odds that Mark Briscoe had. And then, one by one, things started to even things out. I thought it was a great match. It was super entertaining. It had the spot of the night, and it had the backup spot of the night. And I'm going to talk about those because it was so much fun. At one point, Satnam Singh got in, cleared house. Come on now. How can Mark Briscoe stand up against 1 in a billion Satnam Singh Satellite Unite? So let's bring on the Big Hand Nation. He drops the hammer, hits all these choke slams, and then we get the Best Friends and we get the Lucha Brothers run out. And together, they take out Satnam Singh with a 4-way super kick. I thought that was a great spot. And then the best spot of the night was Papa Briscoe revealing himself and showing that he was ringside the whole time. He chokeslams Jay Lethal through a table and evens the odds out, and Mark Briscoe gets his win. I was so entertained with that match. It was great from top to bottom. There were dives in 2023 wrestling. There was Jeff Jarrett, who damn near should have won because Jeff Jarrett shouldn't lose. But he, but he did. And it's okay because the person who got the win, Mark Briscoe, you cannot be a great hero without a great villain. And Jeff Jarrett played the villain part perfectly in this match. That's why for me it was the top segment. Now I know, Scott, you have a totally different match in mind. I want to hear your thoughts on what you thought was the best match of the night.
Well, for me, it's really close. But when I was taking my notes in advance of the podcast, at the top of the page, I wrote "Great Six Man." And for me, the trios match, it definitely had. For me, there was so much action. There was so much interaction between all of the wrestlers, and it was it's tough to explain it, but for me, the match just was kind of rock'em sock'em robots in a six man, and just lots of good high flying stuff, some technical wrestling. It was just a really good solid six man, and it didn't seem, I guess for me, a lot of the when I think of six men, I'm thinking of Bucks trios matches, right?
Right.
And the Lucha Brothers and that sort of thing, to where you kind of know it's going to be just kind of a nuts flying fest.
Mm-hmm.
Here it was just a lot happened inside the ring.
Right.
It wasn't like that everything was outside the ring and there was all kinds of chicanery going on. It was just a good, solid match where just at the point you thought somebody was going to win, somebody else comes in and breaks it up. And of course, the very end I thought was really interesting because you had the submission, and you actually had more than one submission going on. Actually.
Absolutely.
I guess for me, was it Suzuki?
It was Minoru Suzuki.
Minoru Suzuki. So here's, for me, what I thought was the most interesting thing about the match. He is the one wrestler, though, clearly playing a heel. Everybody loves him. He is just a badass wrestler. And see, in the very beginning, I think it was Darius, it was like Suzuki invited him to just give him a chop.
Yeah.
And it was just like hitting nothing, like hitting just a brick wall. Nothing moved. And then, of course, he lays back and just knocks him off of his feet. There was so much personality in that match just from Suzuki himself and the way that he interacted with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
For me, frankly, that was kind of what tipped the scales on making that the best match, because I just felt that had the most personality. Mm-hmm. and combinations of wrestlers that you don't normally get to see, and yet they all worked so very well together. I just thought it was a great match.
So what I'm
hearing, I thought the finish was good too.
Absolutely. What I'm hearing from you is you were very sports entertained by that match.
I was.
Which isn't a surprise, considering Jericho was a part of it. Guevara was a part of it. Those
Absolutely.
are two of the biggest, best sports entertainers in AEW. Now, they had their own story. There was a little bit of a back and forth. Sammy still helped out, still did some of the heel stuff. He still kind of acted as a heel, but there was still that back and forth with Jericho telling that story. Minoru Suzuki is still the best murder grandpa you will ever find.
Yeah, well, and here's and again, another little tidbit, right? When Jericho kind of does his best attempt at that little spin on the mat, mm-hmm. that Sammy is known for, mm-hmm. and then Suzuki just kind of comes over and just leans on top of him, and they do the sex gods pose,
right?
And Sammy's just looking on and kind of just goes, okay, guys,
right?
And I see it. For me, it was entertaining, but it was great wrestling. But you had those little spots in there that was humorous, and it just showed a lot of personality. So for me, that just kind of tipped the scales.
Absolutely.
But for me, but what is interesting to me, though, is just how Minoru Suzuki can really just take everybody in the audience and command their attention, and everybody respects him. It's like, yeah, okay, kind of, I guess you're a heel, but everybody loves seeing him work. And again, it's the chop fests, the murder grandpa, the whole thing. It was just a real treat of a match. I really enjoyed it. So I'll stop now. But that was my favorite. I think you know why now.
I think you've done a great job of delving into it. Suzuki does have that personality that carries across languages. He's got his character. He's been working it a long time. He's got his character where he can convey it so thoroughly that it brings in the audience, as you were talking about. Everybody was cheering his moves. Everybody did his Kaze no, I can't say it, but his entrance sing along like they did with Jericho, who's still a heel. There was no way that Andrade, Martin, and Fox were ever going to win that match.
No.
There was literally a jobber match, and you could tell because after they had an interview, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I thought Andrade, Martin, and Fox did a great job. Fox did his inside out dive. Martin got to interact with Suzuki in some killer ways. Andrade almost got a pin on Jericho again.
Yes,
there was so many good combinations that Jericho was a hard hitter. Suzuki, had the chop fest. He had one chop and took out Darius Martin basically for 10 minutes. It was great. He literally wiped him out. But Guevara could match all of the high flyers, and he did. And that brought a different element when he was in the ring. There were so many different flavors in just that one match that it was alone the most sports entertaining of all the matches. I can see why it was your top match. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and again, it was just by a nose, but
just barely. But it was so much fun. How could you not claim that to be the one that you like the most? Now, was there a single spot from that or from another match that was your spot of the night? We're going to get in that in a second, so I just wanted to prep you for it. So you had a single spot, or, of course, you could just piggyback. That's up to you. So first of all, there you go. First of all, this week's Spot of the Week is brought to you by our sponsor, the Elite Mark Order. Hey, wait a minute, that's us. Today, we've got our very own shirt available at Zazzle.com. The link is available in the description down below, and this is the best way to support the channel. So order one today and wear it proudly to all of the shows. I know Sentinel is trying to get one for the next show he's going to, and it's going to be not quite there fast enough. So be proud, be an Elite Mark, and get yourself a shirt. So the Spot of the Week. Now, for me, the Spot of the Week comes from the concession stand match. I talked about that earlier. You might think it's when four men did that super kick on Satin, a man himself satellites you that, but no. It is instead the reveal of Papa Briscoe at ringside and his chokeslam of Jay Lethal through the table. He, at least 50, potentially older, couldn't find out. I only had 5 minutes. Completely untrained. He's never been officially trained. He's only been in like one match. He executed a perfect chokeslam, and that earned him the Spot of the Night. Scott, how about you?
Totally agree. It was such an unexpected surprise, and it was so well executed. And knowing the history, of course, between the families, it was a bit of a comeuppance. I just thought it was perfect. Really added to the story. And it just really stood out for me.
There you go.
So, yep.
Fantastic. Well, let me tell you, I got to say that in general, that match itself was fantastic. I know it's a bit that I've been doing the whole JJ for life thing, but the fact is he really has won me over as long as he's not going for the world championship. He really, if he won a tag championship or a trios championship, I'd be okay with Jeff Jarrett holding a title in AEW, and I totally didn't think that when he joined.
Yeah,
He
I
won me
do.
over. He's won a lot of people over.
I remember a lot of criticism
Mm-hmm.
once people found out that he was going to be kind of on-air talent as opposed to just backstage coaching.
And
And
backstage. He had like legitimate backstage and he was going to be on air. And people like, what are you doing giving him any sort of backstage power? But it
yeah,
wasn't in creative.
right. But, and again, this is me, right? I didn't really know who he was.
Okay.
This is another character who's new to me.
Right.
And he is a very old school heel, it's
Absolutely.
and now I'm starting to wonder whether ugh, let me think about this for a second. Um, uh, it was the one from the WWE who kind of styled himself as a fake Elvis.
Honky
Had
Tonk
a
Man?
guitar, Honky Tonk Man.
Uh huh.
And didn't Honky Tonk Man have the occasional spot where he would just crunch somebody with a
Yes.
guitar? Now I don't
Absolutely.
know. Now I'm starting to think that that was derivative from Jeff Jarrett. I'm guessing that Jeff Jarrett came first. I could be
No.
wrong.
No,
No.
Honky Tonk is
Okay.
significantly older. He's
Oh,
think of Jerry the King Lawler.
okay.
If you
Oh,
remember
wow.
Jerry,
Oh, I
he's
do. He's
he's
old.
that generation.
Okay. Well,
Honky
then
Tonk
maybe.
is early '80s type
Okay. See,
personality. So you
I'm
just
always
missed
learning
him.
something.
Yeah, you just missed
Always learning
Honky.
something. Always learning something from you. But so yeah, so maybe Jeff Jarrett is derivative of Honky Tonk Man. But let's just say this: he's made the whole guitar shot his own. He
Yes.
is annoying. He is annoying as hell. And he's a good wrestler. He's a good wrestler. He does sell well, but
Yeah.
he's a good wrestler.
He
So
knows his shit. Technically, he's excellent. He always has been.
mhm,
Entertainment wise, he knows how to get an audience to hate him. To
he
his
does.
credit, it's entirely on purpose. And how can you not love him? He's won over everybody, and by not winning against Orange Cassidy and having Satnam, not Satnam again, fucked that up.
Yeah,
By having Sanjay on his team, he could literally book any win he wants, and he
absolutely.
turned down a belt. That
Yeah,
I think won over a lot of the naysayers, and
agreed.
good for Jeff. He made the right choice. People are now enjoying him and not worried about him trying to have all the stroke around here, as I used to quote him.
Yeah.
So he's such a different person in his presentation on screen that I'm accepting it and I'm enjoying it, and I am so glad that he continues to work with somebody like Satnam, who maybe in the future could legitimately be a world class type athlete because he is giant, quite literally. So we'll see
Yes.
if anybody can help him. Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, that crew will help him. So I'm excited to
Hmm.
see where they go. I want to move on to the rest of the show. I want to start off by saying, my God, Chicago was hot. What a surprise. But from the very beginning, when the Hardys music hit, they were red fucking hot. And throughout the Hardys match, they were into everything. The Guns eventually got an Ass Boys chant going, but the crowd mostly didn't respond to them. They finally got a little over, I think, by the end of the match. But man, the Hardys were red hot. The
Yeah.
crowd was red hot, and the Hardys, they're legends. The crowd
Hmm.
knows it. They were happy to see him, and they were not happy with the outcome.
No.
It was an okay match. I mean, the Hardys got their spots in. Jeff Hardy was, getting rid of the ring rust. They were telling that story. And the Guns, quite honestly, their entrance looked really good. I still hate their outfits, but their
Hmm.
entrance looked really good. The short one, I still don't remember his name, did this little finger move and did some water spurt spray. So I'm like, okay, it sort of looked like he shot two guns. It fit with their name. The problem I find with the Guns is they steal a lot from their dad. What I
Mm.
mean by that is they did the crotch chop like 4 times in the match.
Hmm.
Triple H did the water spray. Now the short one's doing a water spray. Slight difference, don't get me wrong, but he's doing the same sort of thing. And in the match, they crotch chops. They also went for the famouser. There's just so much of that influence that it's extraordinarily difficult for them to break away. But I will say this, they were put over by the announcers as having improved a lot. And they have. They've significantly improved. And it's obvious. And in this match, it did show they did a lot of typical heel stuff, but they were really good at it. It was well executed. And thus, the match itself was okay, but I enjoyed the overall presentation. The Hardys are over, and they got beat the fuck down at the end. Bullet Club Gold got an interference, and the Guns actually pinned the Hardy Boys, which I thought was another real big boost to the Guns. Gives up a lot of credibility.
Well, with a little help from their friends.
Look, you know what? The visual alone is worth it. We've said it before. That Yuta just getting a pin on Kenny Omega in a match was significant enough. So that they've known it for decades. That visual pin of being enough to get that it matters. There's a psychology to the audience that is sold when they can see that pin. When the heels can crow about a win and it not be a lie. Because normally heels lie the fuck. They're like, I beat Hulk Hogan within an inch of his life. It was on pay-per-view. Nobody can prove it. There's no video they'll show. You know, that was the old school heel trick where they would just lie their asses off no matter what and convince the audience that they thought they still won. It's just classic heel work. And I thought that the Bullet Club are still kind of building towards that. And this is a legitimacy builder. And so, as a result, I enjoyed the match, even though the Hardys lost. Even though they lost by direct interference from the Bullet Club. Are they part of the Bullet Club? Are the Guns not part of the Bullet Club? I don't know. But the fact is, I care a little bit. And that's more than I could say a couple of months ago about the Guns.
Yeah, they're definitely building that whole Bullet Club mystique for sure. And you know, I am starting to wonder whether the beatdown that occurred is playing into the real life story that we may not be able to see the Hardys at least together when they start touring into Canada.
Absolutely, that's true. Yeah.
So you know, they are at least smart enough to give them to the crowd, get the pop, give the people what they want, but also play into the real life story that you know, it's going to maybe make a little more sense now when we don't see them when they're doing the Canada swing,
right?
Because of the beatdown that they got and the fact that, you know, they lost and whatever. Right. So they can kind of take a powder for a little bit and then they'll come back at some point and it'll be all good again. But in the meantime,
perfectly logical, explain to the audience. They don't have to wonder what happened. Yes, Jeff has DUIs, not allowed in Canada. Very well known. The Usos had a similar problem. They're just not going to deal with it. No big deal. So Jeff Hardy gets written off for a week or two, comes back to a huge pop. Good for him. Not an issue. It's the Hardys. Nope. They lose nothing by losing to the Guns and only help the Guns. So,
well, and it's the old phrase, they can take the loss.
Yep.
It does not hurt them. They are legendary.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a clean victory, so they're protected. So
they've made their bones in wrestling.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Exactly. So let's move on to the rest of the match, or to the rest of the show, and the next segment was actually the concession stand match. We talked at length about that and why it was fantastic. So Mark Briscoe got his pin over Jeff Jarrett, and his legend builds. So good for Mark. He's getting a fantastic push. Let's see where it goes. See if maybe he gets a belt or two. You know what I mean?
It's real. It was a real feel good moment at the end. Seeing him and others in the ring pointing up to the sky.
He got to embrace his dad right there. There was a lot of emotionality with everybody that got to help, and there was a lot of hugs around. yeah, there was a really good feeling at the end of that match. You're right about that.
Yeah.
And then we move backstage where the Blackpool Combat Club and Takeshita and Don Callis cut their promo where Jon Moxley talked up how the Blackpool Combat Club are the best in the world and the most elite in AEW. Thus, if the elite disappear because of contract disputes, then the Blackpool Combat Club are the elite of the elite. So, or the elite of all elite wrestling. That's how I read it. But again, he went in, talked about how they're the best, how Takeshita and Callis know that. No real answer about whether or not Takeshita has joined the BCC, but he sure did look good next to him. And again, that visual, they're in black, he's in black, their shirt says BCC, his shirt doesn't say anything. So, you know, I again, intrigue, are they building, are they not? Takeshita certainly would fit. He would be fantastic. So I don't find a problem there. Maybe we'll see it. They're building more of that story. Anything to say about that particular, not the segment, but about the build towards the elite match that's coming up at clearly Forbidden Door with BCC, Takeshita, and all of their different combinations of. There was somebody who got added instead of Danielson. It was another one of the Forbidden Door wrestlers, and I forget which one, but it was another Moxley friend. I don't remember. But you know what? I like them all, don't get me wrong. I don't see them often enough to remember all of the names.
Right.
And that's why I have Jay on my shows when I can in order to fill in those blanks. And you're in the same boat I am. We just don't know these guys.
And here I was going to be relying on you for all of this. Oops. Okay. Well.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Yeah.
But
I got a couple of notes. I got a couple of notes.
Yeah, please.
But not on this one.
Oh, let's see.
I can't remember them either.
And that's fine. Here's the thing. It's building towards Forbidden Door. We'll enjoy Forbidden Door if we order it. I'm sure I'll watch a stream of it. And after I enjoy it, we'll never see him till next year. And that's fine. That is a fantastic way to do an inter-brand match pay-per-view. And there's a lot of multi-person. There's a lot of one-on-ones. There's Danielson Okada that they've talked about and they end the show with. You know, there's so much good stuff that I don't have to know all of the names of all of the best wrestlers that are coming from New Japan. But the ones from last year, Suzuki, Ishii, Okada, not Okada, but some of those names I definitely remember. Zack Sabre. I remember these guys from last year. So maybe next year I'll remember the guy who was with the Blackpool Combat Club when they fought the Elite. I don't know. But I do know that the Elite, in their segment, and I'm going to go ahead and cover that now. Let's talk about it. They're like, okay, well, Kenny's got his match. We're down, people. But we have friends, don't we? And out came Eddie fucking Kingston, of all people.
Oh, man. I loved it. Oh, my gosh.
It was like, okay, they built it up a little bit last week, but I really did not expect them to go into Forbidden Door with them. You clearly have some thoughts on it. Let's hear. What did you think about it?
Well, first of all, I just thought it was so sly how he just kind of curls around, from behind the camera and just kind of goes, hey, it's me. And just his whole thing. It's like, I really don't like you people, but I hate Castagnoli. I hate him. And if you know the history between the two, that really hasn't resolved, right? That is a masterful slow burn of a story, long-term storytelling. But so for Eddie, who was out for injury, he had a serious hernia, as I understand, that needed some repair, and you didn't know how long he was going to be out. So I think it was a big shocker when he came out last week. And now that he gets to be part of this, and I actually thought, he's probably going to get to do that opening match. He'll have a dream match against somebody. It'll be a chop fest, and they'll bow to each other, and that'll be it. No. Eddie is coming in as a major broker player here, and he's basically saying, look, I really don't like any of you guys. And there were some callbacks with the Bucks. Yeah, you tried to blow me up. I tried to run you over. Yeah. And they're kind of like this little fiddle there, smallest fiddle in the world. It was just so good. but what was interesting is that everybody was looking at Eddie as if like, we don't have any other choice here. Good thing he's here. So Eddie's like, oh, and by the way, I'm going to pick the fifth person because you need a fifth person, right? And they're like, that's okay. I mean, it was kind of funny in the sense that they were willing to put their trust in somebody who doesn't trust them or anybody practically.
Right.
Eddie Kingston being the power broker for this match, I thought was pure genius and funny at the same time because it's not expected. But when you find out who it is, oh my God.
Well, here's the thing about Eddie. He brings the level of believability through the roof. Everything he says is real.
And people love him.
Even if
love him.
he is adored by the AEW fans. He is absolutely pure babyface material no matter what he does, including bringing a gas can, trying to burn somebody. People loved him for it. It doesn't matter what he does.
Yep.
So he absolutely is beloved. And the fact is, they're like, look, we're just going to point you towards Claudio and hope that you take everybody out. That's the only thing the Elite can do right now. And so I definitely want to talk about Eddie later, but my God, bringing him in, yeah, they foreshadowed it last week, but it's just great sort of will they, won't they, who's going to do this to whom and what it's just pure chaos. And that's fantastic because that's all AEW stuff in Forbidden Door. Another reason for us to watch it. So
for sure.
Just, again, this is the booking and storytelling that we are used to at such a high level that we are disappointed when we don't get filet mignon every fucking night.
Yeah.
And we are just absurdly covered in riches right now. We are just in the middle of a golden age. And if the other company starts producing as entertaining stuff as this, wrestling is going to have another amazing golden age.
That's sure.
What I hope.
Well, and I guess we'll get to this later, but the other interesting, intriguing piece of this is not only do you have in the BCC the person who Eddie hates more than just about anybody in the world, but also the person who he loves more as a brother wrestler than anybody than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
So the tension there and the possibilities of the dynamics of that match are just really intriguing.
But the best part about Moxley's relationship with Eddie is they have fought more than they have been friends.
Yeah.
They love each other like brothers deeply, but they have gone through some wars. So this is, I do love the tension in all the different directions. Because, he hates Claudio. He loves Mox. And last year, or, last time he was called upon, he was on Claudio's side and he put it aside. But now, he's like, no, now I'm going after Claudio and Mox. You chose to stand beside him. I don't care about the rest of these guys. None of that matters. Claudio matters. You chose. I love that story. That story is fantastic. Multiple years, all the way back to ROH. And because Tony owns ROH now, they get to tell that story with any of the footage that they want to use.
Yeah,
Man,
for sure.
There's so much richness. It's absurd how much they can draw from the tapestry of all the wrestling to build on literally this brand new company. I'm still surprised every time how well they're actually doing by comparison to other companies.
And last night, if you didn't notice, there was a lot of ROH there. There were a lot of ROH belts being, shown and on people's shoulders, so the people who were there weren't really just promoting, New Japan. They were promoting ROH.
A good example of that was Excalibur's rundown. He ran down the ROH, which was coming up on Thursday tonight. Then he ran down Rampage. Then he ran down Collision. Then he ran down Forbidden Door. I mean, I'm like, are you fucking serious? And he didn't do it at super speed, but he did it nonstop. And then he had to take a breath for a second. But just match after 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 match that were all really fucking good.
It's an embarrassment of riches, for sure.
It really, really is. And I'm like, that's 4 days this week. That was all in 4 fucking shows. It's just amazing. That's all
It
I'm
is.
saying.
I'm totally with you there.
This is better than when WWE did SmackDown and we got 4 extra hours because Thunder. No, this is amazing wrestling. And if they can keep this up, my God, with the influx of new people because of Fight Forever, which will happen, that video game, I will claim right now, will be a success and will draw in tons of new fans because people like AR Fox will do things that they'll then want in the video game.
Mm-hmm.
That demand will happen naturally, organically, the best way possible. So the Dante brothers, or the Martin brothers, absolutely, Dante and Darius, need to be in DLCs. AR Fox needs to be in their trio packs. There's just, these guys all deserve the repercussions of being such good wrestlers and being in a video game so that people can play with them and build that fandom. My God, does it remind me of when I was in my 20s and 30s. Because I played those games back in the day. WrestleMania 2000, my high watermark. The one that No Mercy set the standard for. No Mercy is the high watermark for almost everybody that is anticipating this silly game.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are anticipating that high level, and by every single video I've seen, they have delivered. And my God, isn't that great to know that there's a company responding to demand?
For a while, it seemed like expectations were dampening.
Well, yeah,
based on who was in charge and what the Discord was like and whether Kenny had enough influence and all that kind of stuff. But I do think Tony cares about quality. Anything that his brand is on, he's gonna bend over backwards to make sure it's good so it doesn't tarnish the brand. Here I am, the trademark lawyer again, but it's all about the brand. And so for sure, I'm confident that it's going to be good because it's got the brand on there, and TK is going to make sure it doesn't come out till it's ready. And like you said, it's rife for additional, content packs that people can get and just keep building and building and building. But at least they're going to have a really solid release, I think. And it's going to, you have a choice about whether the barbed wire match explodes like it was intended to, or whether it is the earth-shattering kaboom,
with
situation
the sparklers.
where it didn't, where you just get these little psh, psh, and that's it, pachoo, and that's it.
By the way, great Marvin the Martian imitation. That's a real callback to some of us old school guys.
For sure. Well, you're welcome. You got to try something.
I need to open the door for my cat. Hold on. Go ahead and talk for a second about anything you want.
Well, okay. I'm trying to remember if this happens to be next or not, but I think what came next was the promo between Adam Cole and MJF in the ring.
Okay.
And the promo between Adam Cole and MJF in the ring, I think, was next. Which I think there was a precursor to that was Tony Schiavone with a rather impressive looking mixing machine that they were going to start pulling out the names for. Now, what's interesting is that it looked like there were many more balls in there than spots, on the bracket, but nonetheless.
So the Blind Eliminator Tournament is the name of it. And I'm not sure exactly how many brackets there are. I do know he only chose 2 names. And surprise, surprise, it turned out to be the world champion and the guy he's feuding with.
Mm-hmm.
It's extraordinary the amount of odds
Yes.
that it would take for that to fall perfectly in line. I'm thinking, just a guess, that it might have been fixed.
Well,
I'm
Taz certainly seems to think so.
I am with Taz most of the time. He does have good points. He's been around.
I mean, he called Shivani shady. He's kind of a shady guy there, and of course the best. And if you want another great moment was when he interrupts them, and he says, "I have an announcement," and then
God.
in unison, "Shut up, Shivani." And
that
they
was
both look at each other.
Perfect soul. That showed me. By the way, thank you for bringing that up. That is the best moment. The call out, the "Shut up, Shivani," was absolutely perfect because it showed they can work in unison.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously the whole can they work together? Will they? Won't they? It's old hat. It's a very classic wrestling trope. It's way played out in Connecticut. That company is way played it out. But I think in this situation, it brought the level of intrigue to, well, this is interesting because they could conceivably gel every now and again during the matches and be like, maybe we are this good. And now I don't want them to lose or to win over FTR. But if they did do a WWE move and have the world champion and his number one challenger be the world tag team champions, wouldn't necessarily be against it if that meant MJF and Adam Cole with that sort of will they, won't they energy as tag champs until they finally go for the world championship. That puts the world title sort of on hold, even though it's visible each and every week. You know what I mean? I think that would be a tremendous program that could even go through maybe the entire summer before it culminates in their breakup and then their ultimate match. And we already know the chemistry they have together because they've been a team.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. Kind of like how I got the ages of the honky, and the more I think about it, of course the honky tonk man is older. Silly me, but the thought that MJF actually studied and kind of looked up to and admires Adam Cole is something that was lost on me because I still look at Adam Cole. Again, new guy here. I am aware that he came out of NXT. Okay, I know that much. But I always looked at NXT as the up and coming wrestlers. They tend to be younger. So the thought of MJF actually having looked at Adam Cole as kind of a veteran by comparison and admiring him and studying him and whatnot, I was really surprised to hear that come out because I've never perceived Adam Cole really as being in enough of a different generation from MJF, like for example, Punk. It's very credible, especially when you see the picture of MJF and Punk together, right? That's actual real history that they're weaving into the story. So the notion of him looking up to Punk and that whole story makes sense. The idea of MJF looking up to Adam Cole struck me as a bit odd, to be honest with you. And I'm not quite sure how to explain that other than that they seem like contemporaries. They don't really seem like, a veteran and this young lion pillar of AEW. And maybe again, it's the history failing me because I don't have the big picture. But that was kind of the biggest aha moment for me of the story is this notion that Adam Cole is older, wiser, more experienced, and therefore certainly capable of taking that championship away from MJF and somebody who would be worthy as a teammate. So I'm very intrigued by all of it.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you want to look at the ages, MJF was born in 89.
Okay.
Adam Cole was born in 96. And CM Punk was born in 78.
Okay, so I'm not wrong.
No, there's a whole generation of Adam Cole. There's, and that's the thing is, if MJF is like, say, 18, 19, when he's really, kind of in that phase of idolatry, impressionism that you're going to get that's going to carry you as a professional, like, I'm going to reach that sort of level. We already know was established with Punk at a very early age, but you look at if he's 18, Cole's 28. Yeah. And that's where he's really working in ROH and he's going through. So it really is possible that
it makes sense.
That it was influential. And that's the great thing about how young Max is. He can tell the story about damn near everybody.
Yeah.
And it be true. The only people that he can't tell about is the four pillars that he's already told a story with. So he's doing a great job. He's selling what's going on with Adam Cole, who was, even if he wasn't, he's telling it that it was one of his idols, one of the people he looked up to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think Max is blowing smoke up his ass when he says that.
Well, no, because Adam Cole is good.
Yeah.
So I think he legitimately was watching him through NXT, through his growth in ROH, and legitimately was a fan. Absolutely, Max is a fan. Same as Triple H back in the day. He legitimately went from fan to wrestler. That's how it works. Is you put in the work because you care enough about the product. You have to with wrestling. Why the fuck would you put yourself through that if you don't love it?
Fair. Very fair.
So he got the love early and he started watching it and it motivated him. And he gets to do that with basically any veteran. You put a veteran in there and I grew up loving you, pictures of it. I grew up watching you, images of it. My God, his bar mitzvah was WWF themed. Mm-hmm, he was a baller, by the way. At 13, he was a fucking baller. He really did live the lifestyle. So he's legitimate kayfabe up and down, and certainly the crown jewel of AEW. And Tony obviously knows it. I'm a big fan of what's going on in the company. So as we move on with the rest of the show, there was a setup after Jericho won his match, because of course he did, against the incredible Darius Martin, AR Fox, and Action Andretti. And they set up a match with Sting, Darby, and a mystery partner for Forbidden Door. And we get to find out at Collision. And the fans booed the shit out of that. And I think they were right. Because they really, you just, there's no reason to go at length and just string it out. I get they're whatever. Just tell people, let them pop.
Well, they're trying to get people to look at the other product.
I know.
And to me, and I do think what it does is it helps counter the notion of a true brand split, right? That everybody was worried about.
I get what they're doing and why, and
I
don't have to like it
because somebody showed up. Somebody showed up. Of course, they said, "Well, I'm really not supposed to be here." But somebody did show up, and it showed, and it's what a lot of people expected might happen, because if you're in Chicago, you're in Chicago.
Right.
But it strikes me that this is far less of it may be a Punk split, as I've told some people.
Yeah.
Not really a brand split. But
I agree with that. But
it's not like you've got two separate rosters and you're only going to see one set of people on Collision and the rest of them on Dynamite. I just don't think that's going to happen, and I think that's a good thing. Actually, it only increases the possibility of who's going to show up on Collision, who's going to show up on Dynamite. Will stories carry through from one show to the other? Here's an example of how it kind of does. Doesn't always have to.
I think right now they're using Collision as, this is your chance to see people you haven't been able to. This is your chance to see Miro. This is your chance to see Hobbs. This is your chance to see Andretti. Or Andrade El Idolo.
Yes.
I think that's a good way to brand it. Like, we don't have enough time. Here's another whole full show for you. I
for
think
sure.
that's a great way to show, hey, look, it's the same company. We're, it's the same stuff. It's just we have so much that we needed more time.
Yeah.
I like that sort of approach. So, it's nice to
So
see that they're building the other show, but I don't have to like the technique.
that's fair. I wasn't offended by it, but that's okay. Again, but here's the thing. I know I'm going to be watching Collision, so I figure, wait a couple of days, I'll find out.
No, that's
Um,
my point. I was going to watch it anyways. They don't need to try to sell me on it. They don't need to try to get their audience. The people who
mhm.
really care about the Forbidden Door partner are going to watch it anyways.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
string us out? But okay, whatever.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so then they got into the Hone Heart Foundation. Actually, there was a video with Tanahashi daring MJF to show up at Forbidden Door because that was the end of the Shut Up Shivani moment. And MJF is now facing Tanahashi. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
So here's my question. Um, I mean, do you really think this can be booked for MJF to beat Tanahashi, or do you think it goes to a draw or some other schmoz type non-result?
I think there's going to be total schmoz fest. There's absolutely no fucking way that the darling of AEW loses to Tanahashi, and there's no way Tanahashi loses.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just
So,
no way. There's gotta be interference. There's gotta be something. There's no
or
way it's
or
clean.
or it is kind of like the Adam Cole MJF match. They go to whatever the limit is, and that's it. And every and so that lays the groundwork for the future. It shows respect to everybody leaves happy because it was a great match, and you know nobody beat anybody, although MJF retains. But of course, you got to do that. Um, it'll be interesting. And here's the other thing: I've never seen Tanahashi wrestle.
Me
I don't
either.
think
I've never seen him wrestle.
so. To me, the intrigue of MJF wrestling somebody who is supposedly really, really great, and that we've never seen him wrestle
Yep.
before, that's a draw.
Huge. I
That's a
know how
draw.
good MJF is. I know how good
Yeah,
they say Tanahashi is. Should be a damn good match.
yeah,
That's why I'd
yeah.
be intrigued. So yeah,
Yep.
Forbidden Door is great for that. It's cross promotion. It does get me interested in some of these Japanese wrestlers doing exactly what it was intended to do. Spread it to
Hmm.
the wider American audience while at the same time for the Japanese audience giving them some great matches that they get to show back at home. There's so much good
It's a
coming from
win-win.
yeah, it's a win-win-win. It's a win-win for New Japan and AEW, and it's a win for all of the audience.
Yeah.
That's
No
what
doubt.
this is the true beauty of what of what cooperation between companies can look like.
Hmm.
What you call
Absolutely.
synergy. This is
Yeah.
the best example of it. It really
Yeah.
is.
The most challenging part of it is working out the booking, right? But um, I would be surprised. I would be surprised if there's anything other than, like you say, a schmoz fest or just a good solid match that just goes to a draw and everybody goes, "Holy crap, that's one of the best matches we've ever seen." And wow,
And
MJF went the distance against this great Japanese wrestler, and then of course vice versa, right?
and
So,
Jay might have information about how Tanahashi fell out with the company. Who knows about why he's going to be booked as less than protected. I've heard that from a few sources where Tanahashi losing is conceivable because he's
hmm,
not quite the darling he used to be. And so
hmm,
he's another one of those, he's made his bones. A loss won't
yeah,
hurt him,
yeah,
but it can
yeah,
absolutely make MJF at the birth of his, at this point, legendary career.
yeah,
I'm going to say
for
it.
sure.
He's 26 and turning into a fucking legend already.
Yeah, and how many? And here's the thing: how many title defenses has he had?
He's had 3 matches. 4 now. He's had 4 matches in 2023. 4 matches in going on
And,
7 months.
and I know you and I tend to be long-winded, right? Because we love this so much. But that line from MJF to Shivani, it's like, what kind of dog and pony show is Tony Khan doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are you what kind of a pervert are you? You're going to make me wrestle every
week. Yeah,
You're going to
exactly.
make me wrestle every week? I mean,
His
again,
character is brilliant.
it is. It is. It's so good. The lines like that, and you heard people laugh
Mm-hmm.
because it was a perfectly funny line, right? And it's good to get the laugh at the heel, but it was so earnest. It was like, wait, I have to wrestle every. What are you
It's
doing?
the way MJF sells it.
Yeah,
He
he's
is,
exasperated. Yeah, he's so exasperated when
yeah.
he's delivering that.
And, it's, again, his heel work, his character work is so strong
Hmm.
that you can just see and feel exactly what he wants you to. He
Hmm.
can play the audience with the emotions that he wants you to feel. He took drama in high
Oh
school.
yes.
He
Oh yes.
knows what he's doing to
Oh,
such a
absolutely.
good degree. My God, this guy's a legend. Anyways, let's move on. Let's get through this. There's a lot of show to talk about.
For sure.
There was the Owen Hart Foundation men's and women's tournaments. There's a lot of matchups. People think it might be CM Punk versus Starks at the end, and I think that would probably be a fair matchup. People are like saying, "Oh, for the women, it's like Sky Blue would be a good winner because she's getting that big push, or Willow Nightingale." It's like, but Willow's already got a title, but
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of great, great, great matchups
Well, just remember
throughout the
though,
tournament.
last year it was Dr. Britt Baker, who was by that point former champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Adam Cole,
Yep. The power couple.
maybe right, soon to be champion, right? In theory, at some point. So, and yes, power couple, but both of them clearly good, solid wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't call either of them, veterans really.
No,
Um,
no, by no means are they veterans.
so I will. So let me just get this one little bit in on the women's side. Okay. I am so delighted to see Billy Starks in that tournament. She is from Louisville. She is a graduate of a local public high school. She just graduated
Yep,
this past year,
yep.
and she's up against Athena, who I don't remember the last time we saw her. I don't know,
She's been in
but
ROH.
okay, so that may explain why I haven't seen her lately because I just don't have the bandwidth to watch all of this. But
Right.
let's just say this: Billy Starks travels the world. She holds 5 belts right now, which they will probably make. They will build her up, and actually, I really think she's going to beat Athena, and then she will have a match against Willow where she becomes made and elevated just by having given Willow a good match.
Well,
I don't think Nyla is going to beat as much as I love Nyla Rose. I don't think she can. It doesn't work for her to beat Willow
no.
unless there's chicanery. But
Here's the thing. First of all, I absolutely agree. Billy Starks is a phenomenal woman who just graduated high school, got her contract. AEW snatched her up. There's no chance that they're not giving her a contract. So if she wins or Sky Blue wins, Sky Blue's another one who's already gotten her contract, has really shown a massive improvement the last year, is
yes,
really dramatically gotten better, has that connection. I think this is Sky Blue's tournament on the women's side. I
I
don't
tend
think it's Billy, but I think Billy's going to do. I think she's going to beat Athena, and I think she's going to go maybe up against Willow in the second round.
which is enough. Which is
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
because
Because
we
against
have
Willow, she can have a great outing and still lose and look great because she got
that's
into
right.
the second round.
In
Yeah,
the same way that she had a really good match against, by that point I think it was 52-0.
Jade. Yeah,
Jade, I mean, and
Billy.
she had a good match against Jade.
Billy had some good matches against Jade and Tony. Tony Storm has had some great matches against Billy and Sky Blue. Tony has
Yeah,
really elevated those women,
yeah.
and along with Britt Baker, Ruby's doing a pretty good job of it too. Have really helped elevate who they're in the ring with.
Well,
Uh,
I think you're right. I will go on record and say I am willing to go along with your prediction, because I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I think this tournament is meant to try to, I try to highlight and feature some of the up and comers.
Yeah, I think
And
the inaugural with Britt and Adam was to establish the level of people who should win it.
it gave it legitimacy for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's
But
the only reason they won the first year.
yeah, but Sky's been around
She
AEW for
has.
a good while,
She
and
has.
I think this is her reward for having stuck it out, worked hard,
Yeah,
and improved.
absolutely, and that's what I totally agree with you. I think again, if Billy wins, Willow wins, Sky wins, and like Ruby Soho wins, so Ruby
Yeah.
gets her win back against Britt Baker.
Yes.
Then you have Ruby against Sky, and Willow against Billy, and I think both of those would be really good matches. I think Willow gets the win against Billy, goes on against Sky Blue. Those two have a really good match. Willow doesn't win. Sky does win. Willow again looks fantastic. Sky gets the win. They've also been partners and supported each other, so there's
Yes.
drama there. I
Yeah.
really think that that's the direction their booking is going, and I think that's going to really help Sky Blue.
And Willow could take the loss, and who knows along the way what might just accidentally happen. You
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
She might suffer an injury.
Sure.
You just don't know, right? Although everybody has thought that Orange is going to lose despite just about every, part of his
Every
body
time
being
now.
wrapped up in,
Yeah.
is there a part of his body that's not wrapped up in tape, but yet he still continues to win. So, although we're going to get there, that was a really interesting moment that we had in his
Well,
match.
let's try to get there. Let's try to get there.
Okay, well, I thought they set it up really, really well. This notion that Orange and Shibata had this really great match where at the end they shake hands and Orange puts the glasses on him and they look like, this is kind of the traditional warriors who respect each other. And then, of course, now they're tag team partners. And it's like, okay, this is really, this is interesting, right? It kind of made sense, right? They both respect each other. They're both great. And then the accident, what I would call the accident.
It was a really good match. There was obviously highlighting the tag team work of Zack Sabre Jr. and Daniel Garcia, elevating Garcia to Zack Sabre's level because they were working really, really well together as a team. And then you had Shibata and Cassidy, who also were working well together.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me was Zack Saber's character work. He really didn't want to have anything to do with Garcia. He worked with him, but it was like Garcia's trying to buddy up to him and shake his hand and trying to be in. He's like, get away from me, kid, you bother me. I mean, the vibe that Zack Sabre Jr. was giving off, which is consistent with everything I've seen from them to Garcia, made me think, ooh, they could actually lose because they're not going to work well together because Zack is going to want to do everything or doesn't think that Garcia is that good or whatever. Instead, we had a really pleasant surprise where I thought there was great technical wrestling here. It was, to me, it was great in the same way that the 6-man trios match that I talked about before. A lot of really good in-ring work, technical work, including from Orange. Man, he can go. He knows his technical wrestling. He knows his technical, and he's fast. My God, is he fast?
He really is. You underestimate him because of his character work, because of his sloth style. You're like, he's just lackluster. No, he really isn't. And every time he defends the belt, he gets a little bit more of that, oh my God, is he really this good? And yeah, he's fast. You also saw him, he's smooth, he's technical, there's so many positives to Orange now. It's not even funny how much he's elevated his belt. And
himself.
And
himself.
Oh, yeah. His entire presentation now.
I never, ever for a million years thought that he would be somebody other than an attraction. And he is a champion, and he has really proved himself. And it's not the gimmick. I get the gimmick. I understood the gimmick. I got the gimmick. What I wasn't seeing was the depth of his talent, which this formerly All Atlantic thing, which then became the International, which I'm glad it is, the International Championship. He's worn it well.
Oh, he's elevated the hell out of that title.
He's elevated the hell out of it. He's elevated other wrestlers in the process, which is what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
At some point, he will lose. I honestly don't know who it will be to at this point, because every time I think no, it's going to be to this one. No, and he wins.
Here's the thing: whoever he loses to, much like the whole thing of Roman over in WWE, whoever beats Roman, it's going to really elevate them. But they'll have somebody who's already a star.
Yeah, I just don't know who it's going to be.
Orange could lose to somebody like Swerve, totally elevate Swerve. I thought he was going to beat him. He could lose to somebody like Garcia. I wouldn't see it, but he absolutely could. He could have lost to so many people at this point. Maybe he loses it to somebody like Miro or Hobbs, who comes in, just dominates him because of all of his injuries.
Yeah, that may. Oh boy,
either
Miro
one. I would love Miro to be international champion. Oh my God!
And international. I mean,
he is
not from the United States.
He is an international star. Absolutely true. That's my thoughts too. He, much like Pac did for the All Atlantic, brings that legitimacy that it is an international feel.
Plus, if that happens, you're going to see that belt defended more on Collision, which is good.
Yep.
They need to have championship matches too.
It's such a high quality title at this point, and giving it to Miro again would cement that. I think the TNT championship under his stewardship, I mean, fully elevated, went to Sammy. Sammy did a great job with it. So I think the TNT has had some quality in the past and lost it. And I think the international right now is just that good. It is a TV title, but it's also a pay-per-view title. I don't know where they're going with it, but I'm here for the story. I am.
For sure. So let me ask you about the finish.
Sure.
How did you like the finish, and what do you think happens next in that piece of the story?
The part where Orange accidentally hit Shibata, which cost the match, I think was a way to sell that Garcia can win the Pure Championship and that Zack Sabre could win against Orange at Forbidden Door. Mm-hmm. And that's really all I saw from it. Orange again looked strong because it was his punch that knocked out Shibata.
Mm-hmm.
And it set up tension for them later. Maybe Shibata loses the Pure and wins the International at a different point. Because Shibata, he has that story of his injury and coming back from it. And everything they went into during the match to remind you how his entire career right now is a fucking miracle.
Well, and if you listened carefully, they actually suggested that he could have died during the surgery. It wasn't a question of it being a career-ending injury.
It was.
They suggested it was a life potential.
There's no suggestion. That's the story. That's what happened to him. He damn near died from the injury and from the surgery. Yeah.
That's compelling.
And the fact that he might lose the Pure only to win the International from Orange is a great story. I would love to see that, because then he could go back to Japan with it.
Right.
And then we know the interaction between those companies.
And Orange already gave him the rub, so it would be fine.
That's what I'm saying.
So
I love the match. I thought it was great. Zack and Garcia got the win. It doesn't hurt the Shibata and Orange. Story goes on. I'm super interested. This is just layer after layer after layer with Orange's story and Shibata's real story and Jack Sabre's character work and Garcia's character work and his story so far. This is just, we could go on at length, and we have, so let's try to move on. This is just what we love, why we watch, and why we are the Elite Marks of the Elite Mark Order. And don't forget, you can join the Elite Mark Order by going to EliteMarkOrder.com. Click on Join the Discord. Join us. Become an Elite Mark yourself. You can also click the link down below in the description. And realistically, we've gone through most everything, but there's some real big stuff I want to talk about. Obviously, there was the four-way tug-of-war at the end for the international title, setting up the four-way dance at Forbidden Door. I think that's going to be a fun four-way dance. Those four people showed great chemistry. Marvez was with Will Ospreay in the back. Don Callis came in. Basically, the end of that was, because Canadians suck and Don Callis is Canadian, I'm going to give you my personal security for Will Ospreay. And I thought it was intriguing when he said, "What do you want for it?" And Callis was like, nothing. I don't want anything for it. Bullshit. Everybody knows Callis. There's going to be some payment due later. I don't think Ospreay's going to have a problem with it, but I do see Callis building a stable. And I think Ospreay might be part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't try to breathe water.
Oh, okay. That's what that was.
That's what that was. That was me dying on some water.
We'll edit that out in post.
Yeah, we will. So I thought that was a great interaction. Don Callis is either building his stable or recruiting for the BCC. Either way, there's just so much intrigue, so much story, so much goodness. Yum, yum, yum. I'm eating it up with a fucking spoon. These are great shows. I enjoy watching it. And what I also enjoyed was the next TBS Championship Open Challenge where Taya Valkyrie took on Chris Statlander, and Chris proved why she is the champion. She had a fantastic match. She showed her strength. She showed her speed. She showed her agility. She showed her tenacity. She had great moves. She had great fluidity. Even with the braces on her knees, she was still able to be rock solid, have some strength, really show off her talents. And Taya was a great opponent for her. She was also very, very strong. Again, another power versus power. And, I had a fun time watching that match. I love Chris Statlander, and I'm so glad she's champion and getting to show off.
I think this is horrible to say. I think it's an example of how nobody wants to be injured, but I think it's a great example of what can happen when you get injured and you have to take time away and then you have to recover and you do come back stronger, and it gives you a chance to maybe revise your character a little bit. I always felt that Chris Statlander was talented, but her character didn't fit her style. When she was with Best Friends.
So the boop? You don't think the boop was getting her over?
I don't think the boop was getting her over. And I still remember Layla, who herself I think is injured.
Layla Hirsch
became injured. Layla Hirsch.
Yeah,
but
she is injured, but coming back soon, hopefully.
Yeah, but the whole adoption storyline there, and the way that Chris handled that's not what a baby face does.
No.
The way she handled that was very heelish.
Yeah.
And so my point is, she seemed really kind of rudderless with her character. And frankly, I felt like she lacked a lot of discipline in terms of building her character. And that's not necessarily her fault. But, she evidently wasn't getting the coaching or help that she needed. But this was also fairly early in AEW, where women were having a difficult time just getting attention, much less screen time at all. Right. So for me to come back, for her to come back, and I don't even, where do they announce her as being from now? I honestly, all I know is I see her, she comes, I see her now, she's a badass. Right. She's a badass champion. She's, gone through it. She's come back. She's stronger than ever. She's legit. And she's going to be around a while. I think she was the right one to take that. I'm not sure I liked the way it happened. That seemed a little cheap.
Well, it was a narrative way to get her in instantly.
Yes, it was.
And they had set it up previously because Jade had done that the week before. Mm-hmm. And I think Taya was the one. I think Taya was the one who accepted it, or something. Yeah, but
the story. I mean, the story mm-hmm. really. I mean, the story for Jade was, pride comes before a fall, right?
Yeah.
it is kind. I mean, it was an interesting way to end her story because it was consistent with her attitude changing over time as this kind of invincible, I'm going to win. You know what I mean? She got kind of full of herself,
Yeah.
more than she already was. She really got full of herself. You know, the baddies around her and all that kind of stuff. She
Too
fires her
cocky.
manager.
Way too
Oh,
cocky.
yeah. Right. So that made sense. I was just frankly surprised and shocked that it happened that quickly and in that way. But Chris was the right person. She was the right wrestler to take over the title. And I think what we're going to see now is through this match and other matches, she's going in the same way that Orange has with the international title. It won't take long for us to go, yep, she's definitely the right person. She's definitely got credibility. And everybody's going to forget how she got the title. They're just going to know that she's a good fighting champion.
That is what I'm
So
hoping. I mean, she's had some great matches. It's much better than the Jade stuff that was going on. Hopefully they can keep this momentum is all I'm hoping. So,
well, well, to be honest with you, I mean, Jade was improving, but she was a little limited.
yeah.
And she really only she couldn't really work with every kind of wrestler effectively. You needed to have particular wrestlers who Jade could work with to where it made sense, right, for Jade to win.
Her styles
So
she wasn't good enough to make her style work with everyone.
exactly, but
Yeah.
that's not surprising because
She's
hats
green.
off to her. Hats off to her. She's green as hell, yet Tony picked her
Yep.
to hold this title ad infinitum, and she did really a good job with it.
Look,
It was
there's nothing but absolute fucking applause for Jade.
yeah,
She
very
came
credible.
in, first of all, with Shaq. They knew she was a
Yes.
star.
Yes.
They brought her in, they shined her up, they gave her a brand new title, and they gave her an amazing streak.
Yep, they did.
And if it wasn't for the very end where it started to get old, if
Right.
they were able to end it when they wanted to months earlier with Chris Statlander beating her,
Which they couldn't.
they couldn't
Yeah.
because Chris was hurt. And
Right.
Tony's ability to say, I'm going to give it to someone else, no, he kept it on Jade and kept it on Jade well past her expiration date. And I think that hurt her a little bit. Ultimately, I think she'll be able to recover because she is that good.
And
So,
here's the other thing.
what I need to say here, can you guys hear me?
We
Oh my
can.
What I need to say here is the inability to move on from Jade with her program with Statlander when Statlander was out. It wasn't an oversight, that inability to move on. It was a fuck up.
Oh my God. Did you
And
have to go
that's-
there, Mr. Brody Lee?
That's all I have to say. I'm here with my brothers. We're chilling out on the lake.
Thank you for interrupting us, Jay. We're good to know that you're here, you're healthy, and you're enjoying your time not on the show.
All right. So my brothers each want to say hi to the podcast, and then we'll let you guys carry on.
Feel free.
That
Bring
sounds
them
great.
on.
JJ for life. That's all I have to say.
That's my brother Brian. He loves the Eddie Kingston and the kitten shtick. He's like all about that.
There you go.
Mike? Well, they can't see you. Say hi.
Hi, AEW podcast.
There you go.
Sharon.
I just want to say goodbye and good night.
Bang.
Mwah. Later, guys.
Thank you.
I think
Oh, that was fantastic. That was a great break-in by Jay.
It absolutely was. I didn't even know he was here, but I'm glad he made it. So that was
Well,
awesome.
Yeah, no, he again, he's out doing family stuff tonight. But I'm glad he broke in and he decided to enlighten us with the fact that his brothers absolutely adore the show.
For sure. That's great. More subscriptions for us. So, so do we have anything more to say about
No.
Jade's run and Chris's? Okay, good.
No.
I
We're going to
think we
move
covered
on
that.
actually to Eddie Kittenston, who has not yet brought out the kitten, but he is recovering from his spiral where he had to quit AEW temporarily and apparently get some surgery and has now come back. And he calls out, this was his ending segment where he wanted to tell the Elite who his partner was going to be. But before that, he called out Moxley. They sort of went back and forth a little bit. And then he's like, fuck this. I don't have time for this. my partner is Tomohiro Ishii, and then he sort of bailed. It was just a really weird sort of ending because that's how Eddie is. Very organic. Very organic. So now we know the fifth man is Tomohiro Ishii. That's fantastic, the Pitbull. But there was a beatdown, and people kept coming out, and eventually everybody was beat down with the BCC standing tall. Danielson calls out Okada. Okada comes down. Yuta blindsides Okada, holds him up for the Busaiko knee, but when Danielson comes in for it, Okada dodges, Yuta gets wiped out, and then Okada turns around to hit the Painmaker on Danielson. Danielson dodges, Yuta gets hit again, and that's how we end, is with Okada standing tall above a fallen Yuta and Danielson running like a scared chicken.
Yes.
What a chaotic, crazy ending, starting with Eddie Kingston, morphing into a beatdown, morphing into Okada standing tall at the end. Crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the build-up. Mm-hmm.
But didn't that kind of leave you with like, oh my God, now I have to see what happens? I thought it was great.
It was a great go-home for this show for Forbidden Door. Did it make me want to see the matches more? Yes. It did its job. It informed me of the matches, made me want to order them, did more character work, built stories up, sold a little bit of Collision. Shit, it sold a little bit of Rampage, too. And then it also sold Forbidden Door. I'm going to be watching a lot of wrestling this weekend. There's just a whole lot of wrestling to deal with for the next couple of weeks, actually, because after Forbidden Door, there's going to be All In, then after All In, there's going to be All Out. And then somewhere in there is something else. So, yeah, there's a whole lot going on. This show blew my mind. It was I loved it. I don't give ratings. Probably like 13 3/4 and a fifth percentage. Something silly like that. But I'm so happy to see that it's hot, that it's building up again. I'd love to see the ratings continue to go up. I think they showed this week it was the high 9s. Fantastic. And yeah, CM Punk made the save at one point at the very beginning of the show. We didn't even bring up Punk. He was barely an afterthought in the show. And yet it was still a fantastic show.
It was. And I think the crowd enjoyed seeing him. And did you notice he was wearing a Danhausen shirt? That was pretty cool. Look, I think it was nice because it foreshadows the possibility that Punk can still show up on Dynamite. Yep. It can still happen. This isn't even truly a Punk split, even though he's basically saying, I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be on that other show.
But here I am.
But here I am because I am who I am, right? I get to do what I like anyway.
And it was Chicago. And the Elite only did a taped segment.
Right.
So, I just want to see what happens on the next couple of shows. Not necessarily Dynamite, but like Collision. I want to see non-Chicago Collision.
Yeah.
Because that'll really tell me what that audience is doing. Because I think Dynamite, it's going to split. I think Dynamite is going to be more Elite. I think Collision is going to be more Punk. And I think the audiences are starting to maybe split themselves. So we'll see. It's intriguing. And I'm excited to see where everything goes because Lord knows this show is crazy now.
Yeah.
It's exciting and it's chaotic. And it's, as you said a couple of times, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got the more hardcore style. It's got the technical style. It's got the entertaining style. It's just a smorgasbord.
Yeah, really enjoyable. So, which is what we're here to be entertained, and TK is doing it, and I know it's not without help, but the fact that he now has on TV every week, I think as many hours as the WWE does now.
I mean, between like Sunday Night Heat and Velocity, I don't even know if those shows are on the air anymore. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
But if we're talking just their top 3 shows, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of NXT, or is it 2 hours? I don't even know. I don't even think they have a show anymore. I think they're back to streaming.
no. I don't know.
And then 3 hours of Raw. So they're still behind, but yeah, they've got 2-2-1 versus 2-3 and call it 1. It's they're pretty.
It's a lot of
close.
content.
It
is a lot of content.
It is.
3 years in, and you're pretty much coming close to matching the content, and frankly, more wrestling.
Significantly more wrestling, and fuck the haters, a lot more story at every level, not just the top, all the way through. Every division has story. Even the women, as forgotten as they can be, both belts have their own separate stories. So
yeah. Oh, and I think the stories are, and again, I'm not a big WWE fan. I don't watch it, right? I hear about the stories like from Busted Open or whatever. So I understand the bloodline story is a big deal, but that's the only thing you hear about, right?
Exactly. One story. It dominates all the rest.
Right. Multiple. Here now you have multiple stories. And so it's in the same way, I always used to look at professional wrestling as like a sports soap opera, right?
It still is.
And it still is. And I think there is a lot more soap to be had on AEW than from what I see from WWE. Just a lot more stories going on, a lot more vignettes, a lot more characters.
WWE is still very formulaic.
Yeah.
And the way they present everybody is just cookie cutter, replaceable, and that's what Vince has developed over the years, because he's like, I can put anybody in any slot and make it work. That's what he believes. Versus the old school character star, the wrestler is the star, not the brand is bigger than the wrestler. They're trying to make wrestlers that are huge, popular, and huge attractions, whereas WWE focuses on them and their company. So it's a totally different branding, and AEW does old school style, and I absolutely love it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do it because we are so over time. We tried to get it shorter, and guess what? We went longer, as expected, because that's how it works. So let me go ahead and end it. Thanks so much. If you're still listening, please like, please subscribe, please share, please join us in the Discord. You can click the links. You can buy a t-shirt. You can do anything you want. We love you, and JJ for life.